Hi, I'm Barb from Laurie's Country Cottage. Welcome to Schoolhouse 2023. I'm going to show you how to make a multi-purpose bag for shopping. This is the first one I made. I found this beautiful embroidery online and just decided I had to stitch it out for my friend and decided to make it into a bag because it was the perfect size. So I did that one, and then I got a little creative and started making bigger ones that would hold a full load of groceries. They're completely lined. They have a solid base. They won't stand up on their own, but they will stand up when there's anything inside them. I took one shopping last weekend. It held a ton of groceries, canned goods, frozen goods. It was really heavy. It was so heavy I could hardly carry it, but the bag had no problem. They fold up flat, easy to fold, tuck away in a nice box in the back of your car, wherever you keep your bags. And I have all my tools right here. I'm ready to show you how to do it. So I have all my supplies here. I'm going to show you what I use. You don't need all of these things, but they're all helpful in some way. I have a wool pressing bar for pressing, and this is to help seams lay flat. This works really well for that. Any wool surface will help you. The steam goes down into the wool, comes back up out of it when you press, so you're actually pressing from both sides. So that's why I love this. This is an applique pressing sheet, and I'll show you that in a moment. A hot ruler, my favorite heat erase pens that Laurie is now carrying. You'll love them too. A stiletto, a permanent pen, a cutter. I don't have my ruler here because this is already cut, but you'll need a cutter and a 24-inch ruler. You'll need a lighter, a small ruler. You don't need that, but it's really handy. And a piece of Peltex. This is Peltex 2. It's double-sided fusible. It's called 72F or Peltex 2. And this is webbing or strapping. This is nylon. You can use nylon or polypro. Either one works well. And here we have Otif fabric protector. This is for spraying your bag at the end so that it doesn't get stained. Point turner. And then of course, pins and wonder clips. You'll also need a piece of fabric, you'll need a lining, and a canvas. So I have these all lined up. They're already cut. You can see the little line right here where I've cut it. I just wanted to show you what it looked like before I cut it. First, I lined it up. My folds are here and here. I lined the two pieces up with the folds identical. They're matched right up. Then I trimmed off both sides nice and square with the fold. And then I went up to the top and trimmed the selvage off the lining. And with these together, I have two pieces now that are identical in size, and that's what you want. So this piece now is a scrap for another project. So I have my Peltex here all set to go. If you're making a large bag, like the one I just cut, as big as I could get out of 1/2 meter of fabric, you'll probably want about 6.5 inch wide and 13 inches long for your Peltex. But of course you can adjust the size of your bag and make it a little bit smaller, or quite a bit smaller. If you do, make your Peltex smaller as well. So mine is 6.5 inch wide. I have this lovely little 6.5 inch ruler that works perfectly. I'm going to line it up on both short sides and make a little mark at the halfway point. So that would be at 3.25 inches. 1, 2, 3 1/4. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. I back it up a little bit so I have room for my mark. So make it nice and visible so that you can see it easily. The next step is to fuse this to the canvas where the bottom of the bag is going to be. So this is my canvas piece. And remember, I gave it a nice crease. When I open it up, I'll still be able to see that crease on this side, and that's where my Peltex is going to go. So I'm going to put this mark that I just made right along, match it up with the crease on both sides. I'm going to take my nice little ruler and measure to check if I've got it centered. That says 3.25. And that says 3 3/8. So I'm just going to move it down just a hair. Now it's all centered and ready to be pressed. Because this is two-sided fusible, If you put your iron down on this, it's going to stick to your iron and make a huge mess. That's why you need an applique pressing sheet. I'm going to put that down, and then I'm going to press on high heat, no steam. I could leave the steam on, but if I do, it's just going to blow back in my face. And this is a long, laborious process. It takes 10 seconds on each spot without any sliding. 10 seconds is a long time. I wasn't counting, but I'm moving it. So let it cool a bit. And then carefully peel away your pressing sheet. Now the neat thing about using the applique pressing sheet is this side is still fusible if I want to fuse it, and I will later. I'm going to flip it over and give it some heat from the canvas side, which will penetrate better without the applique pressing sheet. So just to be sure I don't lose where it is, I'm going to give it a couple of little clips before I turn it. And now I know you're thinking, oh, don't press it now. You're right. I need the applique pressing sheet under it. If I don't do that, then it is going to adhere to my pressing surface, and you'll have a terrible mess on your ironing board. And I can take these clips out. And I'm going to do the same thing again. This time I am going to use steam because it will penetrate here and get to the fuse. And we'll seal it up much better. And I think that should be nicely fused. Again, wait till it's cool, and then peel it away. And I can tell that it's still fusible by all those little shiny dots. I don't know if you can see them, but they're still shiny, which means that fusing is still there. So when I'm finished making the bag, I can then take the lining and fuse it to this to make the lining stay put. The next thing I'm going to do, just to be sure that this doesn't move in the process of sewing up the bag, is I'm going to stitch a very narrow stitch against the edge of the fusing, just on these two sides. So I'll do that now. So there it is, all lovely fused. It's not going anywhere no matter how I handle it. It's there for good. The next step is to go back to your ironing board, and you're going to fold under on both top edges. Using your hot glue. I like to fold my lining, this is my lining, I like to fold it down about 1.25 inches. So I line this up at an edge, and I go down more than an inch, I leave up more than 1.25 inches and go down, oh, I didn't leave more than 1.25 inches. Let me get a little further. And then I back it up with my thumbs. I'm giving pressure with my thumbs to back it up. Here's the 1.25 inches until that's really nice and tight, so that edge is nice and tight against the ruler. And then I know this is 1.25 inches. Press it. I love these hot rulers. I get the narrow one. Well, I think they're both narrow. There are two sizes. But I chose the smaller one so that I can get into hems on a pant leg, inside with that edge. And again, 1.25 inches. On the canvas bag, when I do this, I'm only going to go down 1 inch, but I like my linings a little bit smaller because there's nothing worse than trying to put the lining into a bag and you've got ripples that you can't get rid of because it's just, there's too much fabric. I'm going to turn it around and do the same to the other side. And again, using your thumbs, just press it up, make sure that edge is nice and tight.
Nope, still going.
And then I like to give it a nice press again just to crisp up those edges. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with the canvas, only with the canvas I'll go down 1 inch instead of 1 1/4. There, now we're ready for side seams. So the side seams are folded right sides together. I'm just going to put a couple clips in it. You do want them to line up closely at the top and then work your way towards the bottom. And you'll find you can't get right to the bottom because of that darn old Peltex. You can clip it, but you're going to have trouble sewing it until I show you. So I've used just my standard foot and I'm going to push my needle over as far as it will go, and that will give me 1/2 inch. Holds the fabric in place as you're wiggling this around. You can see how the Peltex is kind of getting in my way. So I'm going to line this up and hold it as far as I can get. And now it's kind of getting difficult. So what I'm going to do is just kind of roll this Peltex. I don't want to make a crease in it, so I want to kind of roll it. Smooth this out. by doing that, you can get right down to the end. And I'm going to back stitch there just to secure it. It's going to get cut off in a couple of minutes anyway, so not too much of an issue. Do the same thing on the other side. Seams. This time you don't need to worry. Make sure you go right sides together. That was folded the other way because of the original folding. So turn it right sides together. And again. This time I'm going to sew it, instead of a 1/2 inch seam, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller by just sticking out 1/8 of an inch, make it a 5/8 inch seam. So I'm just sticking a little bit out here. It doesn't have to be exactly 5/8. I just want it a little bit smaller so my lining works better. Here we are. The next thing we need to do is press these seams open. And that's where that wool bar comes in. So handy. So I slide it inside. Try and line it up at the top of the bar with the seam allowance. Pop it open. You don't need to get right down into the corner. You're going to be cutting that corner off anyway. So don't worry too much about that. And do the same with the other side. And do the same on the canvas. A little trickier on the canvas because of the Peltex, but still very doable. I was thinking these seam allowances look a little smaller, and then it hit me. Of course they're a little smaller. They're 1/2 inch. And now we're going to box the corners. So to box these corners, I'm going to start with the canvas where the Peltex is. Boxing corners just means you give your bag a nice square edge at the bottom. So all you do is take this, the Peltex kind of makes it easy because it just wants to stay flat and form a point here. And it's that point we're going to get rid of. So make sure it's flat on both sides. If there's any wrinkles in here, scratch them out. Take a couple of pins, just so you're holding it where you want it to be. I like these flower pins because they lay flat under a ruler. Take it to the machine and we're going to stitch right on that line that we already stitched on. Make sure you back stitch front and back, beginning and end. I want my needle to move. Okay. So you'll do that on both sides.
There is softer flow is another way. So how would you like to make that? This is the perfect person. How would you like to do it? What? Gas, weather, and coffee. Jet.
And stitch across. There we go. And then we take it to a cutting board and we cut. Let me remove these pins so I don't cut over them. 1/2 inch. Sorry. 1/2 inch from your stitch line. And I want you to save one of these. Straight, I'm going to tidy that one up. And again, 1/2 inch away. And you're going to save one of these triangles. I'm just going to put a pin in it. And that's going to be the template I use to cut the lining, because remember the lining doesn't have any Peltex. So this one is ready. I can actually turn it right side out. I find it easiest when you're turning it to go in and grab the Peltex with your hand and pull it through. So you can see now I have a nice flat bottom on my bag. I will take my point turner and crisp up those corners. So that part is good to go. To do the corners on your lining, you want them to be the same as the bag, but there's no Peltex there to guide you. So you have to just center your seam into the point, pull out all the wrinkles that are on the back, It's laying nice and flat. And I can tell already that that's not centered. I can feel, no, I want to do it over this way. So if I flip it over this way, remember that nice crease that we put in it at the beginning? I can see it again. It's running right along here, and I can tell it's not centered. If I feel, there's where the seam is. Way over there, I can feel it. So I want to line that crease up on top of the seam. There we go, that's better. So straighten it out from there. Double check. There's your seam. And then we're going to take this piece, line it up, and then pin it together so it doesn't move. Line it up with a ruler. And remember, that was your cut line. So you're not going to stitch on this line. This is going to be your cut line. So I'm going to mark it. I can take this out now. I have my ruler there. Now that is going to be my cut line. I'm not going to cut it yet. I want it stitched first. I don't want it pulling apart, moving around. And remember, the stitch was 1/2 inch in from the cut, so that's where I'm going to put this stitch. 1/2 inch in from that blue line. So I'll move my needle over again. My edge, my presser foot is right along the blue line. No creases under there, so I'm good to go. At the end. And now it's safe to cut on that line. It's all stitched and held. I turn it over and do the exact same thing on the other side. So I want the crease up and the seam down. Now I'm going to feel there's the seam right there, so it just has to come over a hair. And I can put my fingernail in there and check and see, yep, that's where the seam is underneath. So again, I'm going to take my template. See what happens when you take the pin out? It moves. Pin it there, butt up the ruler against the edge. Remove that. Mark it. And repin it. This is where you use that lighter I showed you. It's not for lighting candles, although it could be, but it's not why I have it here. When you get nylon, or especially the poly strapping or webbing, and you cut it, you'll notice little threads start to come off and it starts to fray quite easily. We're not going to turn this under, it makes it way too bulky, but I don't want a raw edge. So all you do, get a little bit of a flame going, hold it up to the edge, and you'll be able to see it melt those threads, and those threads will never fray again. So without making any extra bulk, you have a sealed edge. So you do that on all 4 sides. Mine are all, oh, I see a thread there. See if you can see it burned. There we go. No more fraying for that little guy. I've used about 22 inches for strapping, just because I found that a good size. But I noticed that our strapping packages that we get from Biani are 2-yard pieces. So I checked out, if you cut it into 1 yard, you would get 18 inches for each strap, and that would make 2 bags. So if you'd like to do that, I think 18 inches would be plenty long. Measure it out and have a look and see what you think. So to place the straps on this larger size bag, this is the largest bag I've made. This is among the larger bags that I've made, because anything smaller than this, I put the straps a little closer together. But on this big one, I'm going to measure 5 inches. My 5-inch mark on my seam itself, not on the edge of the fabric. If you're going to the edge of the fabric, it's 5.5 or 5 5/8. So at the 5-inch mark, I place this down about 1 inch. Remember, this was 1 1/4 inches. You can leave about 1/4 inch and keep this into a square box. If you have if yours is plenty long, feel free to take it right down to the 1 1/4. It doesn't really matter. And then I take some wonder clips and clip it in place. So if your bag is smaller than this, then you may want to put your straps a little closer together. So just clipping through one layer, I clip it on both sides. And then I go over, make sure you don't twist your strap around. And I want 5 inches on the other side. So I'm putting the 5-inch mark on my seam, butting this up to it, and clipping it in place. And now I'm going to stitch it on. What I'm going to do, if you can't see me at the machine, I'm just going to describe to you what I'm doing. I'm going across the top, close to the edge of the lining, straight down the outer edge, across the bottom, up the other side. When I get to that point, I have completed the box. I'm now going to keep my needle in the fabric and turn it so that I can make a diagonal line going down here, go across the bottom again, make another diagonal line to go up to that corner, and go across the top again. That gives me 2 rows of stitching top and bottom, 1 row on each side, and an X in the middle. So I hope you can see this. I have black thread in my machine, and I'm going to leave it for 2 reasons. One is it will never ever show. The only place it will show is on the inside of your bag, on the lining. You won't see these straps. They'll be buried inside. I turn it this way, but I like to start going across the top, and I'm going to change my feet. I want an open toe so I can see where I'm going. And I want it centered. Just double check that it's still straight to the bottom. I want to move this just a tiny bit. There we go. And I'm going to reinforce my first stitches. And I'm going to turn it. Make sure you only have one layer of lining there. Turn it again. Remember, you complete your box before you make your X. And I just eyeball it from there down to this corner. Go back to the bottom. The other corner. So you're going to do that to this one and the other one, and then I'll show you how to line up the other strap. And you'll notice I don't try to stitch right on top of the other lines. I find it a little bit stronger if I have two separate lines of stitching than one on top of the other. Maybe that's wrong, I'm not sure, but I just feel better that way. So now we have one set of straps on. We need to do the same with the other set. I'm going to take it over here. My straps are cut at exactly the same length. So I don't need to worry about that. I'm going to put the straps that are already done on the bottom, and I'm going to pull my two side seams really nice and tight so everything is sitting. I have lots of threads to trim there, I see, but I'll get to those later. So now this is still the inside of the bag, just the opposite side from here. So I'm going to line this one up. You could measure the 5 inches if you like, or you can just line it up with what's there. I find this a little quicker, so that's what I do. And you're just holding them in place till you get to the machine. Take it around. And again, put it right on top of the other one. do the same box with an X in the middle on these. One down, 3 down actually. Take the lining, which has the seam allowances out, and push it in. First of all, before I do that, I'm going to crisp up these corners with my point turner. This is a point turner that isn't really sharp, but sharp enough to get those corners pushed out. If you had it any sharper, it would make holes in your fabric. You can do it after the lining is in as well. This just gives you a chance to get it right into the corners, nothing in the way. are. I see some threads there that need to be trimmed, but I can get those later.
So the first question that is asked is called the
So again, one of the side seams, that boxed corner, going into a boxed corner. The other side seam over to the other side. You don't need to worry too much about the corners now. What you want to do is line up your bag, your side seams to side seams.
So that question
There's that thread. And I like to line the side seams up well. I also like to keep the lining down a hair. Remember how I told you I like the lining not to be in the way of the bag? I don't like it showing. I don't like it peeking up over the top. So I like to keep my lining down just a hair, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. So I do the two side seams first, match those up. I don't worry too much about the rest of it right now because it will just fall into place. I'll take it down just a hair. There, now my two side seams are where they want to be. The rest of it just falls into place nicely. And you see this X that we made here, this box, that's going to go up against canvas. And all you'll see of it is this side. And that's if you look inside the bag. I want to make sure I have this all nice and tight. And you can see how I've got this down just a little bit from the edge. I do my two straps first, after the side seams. And then in the center, go over and do the same thing. Missing clips, so I'll use a pin. Just a little bit high for my liking. There. Now we're ready to stitch all around the top. We're going to stitch a 1/4 inch away from the edge, and we're going to stitch then after that 1/8 of an inch. We're going to go back inside. If you don't know where the 1/8 inch mark is on your 1/4 inch foot, just go halfway between the 1/4 inch and the edge, and it's pretty easy to eyeball. So I'm going to stitch that. And got up here. Okay, good to go again. You'll have to remove your part of your machine that comes off to expose your free arm. Most machines today have a free arm, so I'm hopeful that yours does. It makes it a lot easier. I'm going to switch back to a 1/4 inch foot. I find it easier if you don't have a guide on your 1/4 inch foot. I have both styles, but for this job I prefer one without the guide. And that's so when you come to the straps, it doesn't get caught up in any way. And I usually start on one of the sides. A lot of S's there. And 1/4 inch. Oh, my stitch length is good. Okay. I'm going to reinforce at the beginning. What's wrong with my machine? Stop that, please. I let off the pedal and it kept going at high speed.
Did you push a button here?
That start and stop button.
Yeah.
I never used it before.
Yeah. You don't go away
I
till-
pushed that instead of the reverse.
That's fine.
So he'll stop it there for me. Please, Glenn.
Don't put in the speed.
Yeah, I just got a ticket for that. Okay, I'm gonna start this again. Okay, Glenn, good to go. So I'm going to reinforce this seam. And then just stitch a 1/4 inch away from the edge. And you can just pull it from underneath. Keep it going around the circle. And at the next side seam. Scans. When you have the guide on your 1/4 inch foot, it sometimes gets caught up on this as you're going around, which is why I prefer not to use it for this. So there's my 1/4 inch, and then I will go around again and do the 1/8 inch. On my machine, it's the inside of this. There's threads away so I can trim them off. They won't be caught. This is where the guide would catch it. So I'll go back and do lots of threads when this is all done. Basically, my bag is done, and if you're happy with it like this, it's finished. If you'd like it to fold flat and get those nice creases in the so-called corners of the bag in here, and I'll show you how to do that. Let me get rid of this mess, and I'll be right back. Okay, so remember how I said the Peltex was 3 1/4 inches wide from the center to the edge? So I'm going to make little 3 1/4 inch marks all the way up. It's looking like they're going to land on black, so I might have to use my white pen, but that's okay. So we're going to start from the corner, then 3 1/4 inches. Oh, I see some white here. Oh. 3 1/4. Oh, there's some white. I can use the blue there. And then I think I'm going to have to switch to white. When you use the white pens on this, when I first had it, I thought, oh, that's just making a wet mark. I can't see that. But then I turned around twice, came back to it, and it had blossomed, and it was nice and white. So hopefully this will show for you. So 3 1/4 inches marks from the side seam, 3 1/4. So here's a nice white mark. You see it's visible, but not really. But we'll come back to it in a minute and see if it's changed. Three and a quarter, and up here at 3 1/4. I think I did that one too far. I did. So we'll get rid of that one. Need my iron to get hot. Three and a quarter should be there. I must have hit 3 3/4. See how bright this one is getting? Even this one will get there too. Turn the steam off so it doesn't steam out all my marks. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Actually, maybe I'll just, I'm going to mark it now. So 3 1/4 inches from the seam. As you get close to this Peltex, again, you're going to have some difficulty. Just kind of softly fold it out of your way and go as far as you can down towards the corner. You won't get to the very bottom, but go as far as you can. Back stitch. And there's one done. I'm going to start from the bottom. I don't know why, it just seems right, and I'm going to fold that back out of the way as much as I can to get started. And if you use your glass head pins instead of flower pins, you'll find that your iron is much more friendly. There now, stitching is all finished. All we're going to do is press in those creases so it will fold up nicely. Well, we're almost finished this bag. A few last minute touches and you'll be good to go. One thing you're going to want to do is tuck these side seams in. They like to stick out naturally because that's the way we've sewn them. But we want this to stick out and that to go in. So just pop it in, line up your edges, and take a nice hot iron. I don't have one here anymore, but give it a really good press. This way, flip it, and do it from this side, and then do the same on this side, folding those edges in so it folds up well. I like to fold this down away from the Peltex and get nice crisp corners here and here. And then once you have this all pressed, fold your flap, and you can fold it whichever direction you want. Fold it, and then use lots of steam and press in here, turn it over, press here, and try and get that crease to stay so that it just naturally folds there whenever you want to put it away. And then when you put it away, take it, fold it up, and it's all good to go. There's one last thing I want you to do before you're finished, and we'll do that right away. So I've got the bag all done. I've rolled the cuff down a little bit. I'm gonna roll it once more. I just want access into the bottom of the bag. And if you recall, we fused one side of that Peltex and it's double-sided fusible. So that unfused side is up against the lining right now. If we take a small iron, if you have something fairly small, you can use a big one, it's just a little more awkward. But take a small iron if you have it, after you've smoothed it all out, and give it that same 10 seconds per spot. I'm going fast, but you get the idea. And you'll have that fused inside. So now you have your lining caught in 4 spots along the vertical part of the bag, as well as the bottom of the bag is now sealed as well. It's not going anywhere. So that lining is adhered to the canvas. And then you're finished. All good. So here are a selection of bags that I've made just to give you an idea of what they might look like. A couple of them are embroidered. I just want to let you know that if you want to embroider, do the embroidery first and then trim it to size because it will shrink in a little bit. That's why this bag is a little bit smaller. I failed to do that. This one is the one I just made. These are all of them. This one I want to point out. It is not canvas. This was fabric I had in my stash, and when I got to make these bags, I thought, I could use that fabric. So I took some Presto. It's a stabilizer. This is what it looks like. I know it just looks like a piece of cotton because that's what it is, a piece of cotton. It's white cotton. It also comes in black. And on the reverse side, you can feel the little bubbles. One side is smooth, one side is bubbled, and that's where the fusing is. You can fuse the 20-inch wide piece right down the length of your fabric before you start stitching with it, and it will turn this quilting cotton into the same strength as a canvas, maybe even a little bit better. So feel free to use up your stash or come in and buy some pretty batiks, whatever you like to work with, and just get some 1.1 meter of Presto will do your bag. The other thing I want to mention is the fabric protector that I talked about. This bag has now been sprayed, and I'm just going to show you what it will do. Got a little bit of water here, and this is your staining. Do you see how it's just sitting there? So I could take a tissue, a paper towel, anything, and blot it right up. That could be wine, it could be gravy, it could be mud, and it will just sit there if your bag is protected. So you want to spray the whole bag, particularly the bottom if you like to keep them in the back of your car like I do. So this spray is perfect for placemats. I use it all the time on my placemats. Again, once they're washed, they need to be resprayed. But cranberry sauce at Christmas time or Thanksgiving, gravy, red wine, boom, no problem. Tablecloths, if you have table runners, placemats, it's just like Scotchgard on your couch. When you buy your new couch and you get it Scotchgarded, whoops, same thing. So an awesome product to have many uses for it, not just this one. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy it. Bring your bags into lorries and fill them up. And I hope to see you there.